All right, looking at our course outline, today is November 13th. We are going to discuss question of the day number 4 today. But before we get into that, just as a class discussion, we kind of introduced it at the end of last class. We're going to keep working on assignment 7. This is our big work day for digital painting. And what you need to start that is your reference materials. And then next class, pretty early in the class, I'm going to be finishing up the demo and making it due. And this is why, because digital painting can take a long time if you want it to. But it's pretty quick to learn the basics of it, the basic approach. So there'll be kind of 3 layers I'm going to require you to do for your digital painting so that you've tried every technique. But if you don't finish off your full digital painting by the time it's due, you can still get full credit for it, because some people's digital paintings would take a lot longer to finish depending on what your reference is, right? So the other reason is on November 18th, next class, on Tuesday, we're going to see Vincent Valdez. So we'll have the morning of class from 9:30 to about 10:45, because it'll take about 15 minutes to get over there, to turn in our digital paintings and then introduce Proving Ground number 4, which is for our final project, which we'll be thinking about and working on next week. But this is an opportunity to see a local artist who's really a phenomenal artist and has exhibited throughout the country and exhibits internationally as well. And this artist is a painter and a printmaker, and from San Antonio, whose work is in the McNay. It's been in the San Antonio Museum of Art, and I think you'll enjoy seeing what he has to say about his work, and we'll have the opportunity to ask the artist questions, right? Which is even better than presenting on an artist you like. You get to be introduced to new work and get direct access to their process. So that's going to help us a lot with our final project as well. So that will be half of next class. So if you know you're going to be coming to class quite late next class on Monday, please know that we'll be in Paluxy room 100 from 11 a.m. till the end of class, which is on the other side of campus. All right. So let's get to it with assignment 7. This is what we did last class to introduce it. We talked a lot about AI generative content and its use in the general world today, especially in marketing and the AI slop that's kind of filling our digital screens. And that is going to inform your answer for question of the day 4. But I try to teach you empowering ways to use the technology in this class so you are able to use it for inspiration and reference materials for this project. So what does that look like? Well, for assignment 7, I found some, Google image references. I'm doing kind of a Muppet style self-portrait. I have my own kind of references. This will be my primary photo because I'm doing a self-portrait, but I'm stylizing it as a Muppet in various ways, right? And then the AI generated ones that I found kind of helpful was this claymation one based on my photo, and then this furry version of the claymation one. Now, that's not the only kind of inspiration I might have, because I don't want to just match one photo, especially if it doesn't look like it's supposed to look. Instead, I have one primary reference, which is going to be this, but then I'm going to have lots of stylistic inspirations. And so the other thing I like to do is find painters, like physical painters, like Vincent Valdez, and ones that really enjoy the materiality of the paint. This is for my process. And I'm going to use them as inspiration as well. So this is William de Kooning. He is an abstract expressionist painter from the mid to late 20th century. And then also Jim Dine, who is a drawing artist and kind of multimedia artist, very expressive from the 1990s. And so I'm going to drag all of that reference as well into here. Now, at the end of last class, I showed you how to set up a new Photoshop file. You just say Photoshop new, and then the size you want, I'll put it up on the board, is 11 by 14 at 350 pixels per inch. But then I am right-handed, so my canvas is 11 by 14 by 350 pixels per inch. But because I'm right-handed, I put a lot of my references off to the right side on this gray bar. So I extended the canvas size and then filled that background with gray and then put all my references here. Now I'm going to have other references, and I might even extend it further. So I'm going to show you that. And you can keep growing your canvas size. This is like putting stuff around your easel. And this time I'm going to extend it to the left, because this will be my stylistic reference. And I'm going to make its width now 16 by 14, right? And I'll fill that up just with my paint bucket, or I can do this. I'm going to fill that up with middle gray. Why do I like to put the reference on middle gray? Because that will show me the colors a little bit better from the reference, because I'll use them to kind of steal colors. It will also show me the lights and darks relatively better than if it was on bright white. Good morning. So I also have my tablet. Everyone will need your tablet. And I'm going to be using my brush tool almost solely. That will be the main tool we use. There's not a lot of new skills involved in digital painting. It just takes time, and it takes kind of a thoughtful experimentation and exploration. So I'm still just setting things up. So the next thing I'm going to set up are these new stylistic references. And I have a lot of them. Some of them are drawings. I'm just going to make them big. Bless you. Jim Dine and William de Kooning would do drawings with things like tar and bubble gum and just all kinds of weird textural materials. And so then when they did paintings, they became incredibly based on the materials. And you can see the interesting kind of textures they would get, the colors they would get. And that doesn't mean that you need to like that. That's going to inspire my process here. And maybe I don't need all of Pinocchio's pants. I just mostly need one, his skin tones and that texture. So I can bring in another reference. This is one of Jim Dine's drawings. Not William de Kooning's drawings, rather. Put that up above. So now all those compositing skills we learned early on, I'm just using that to kind of organize pixels that will inform the pixels I create for my painting. I enjoy doing this more than just creating pixels from nothing. Like I don't enjoy just choosing colors from the color selector as much as kind of referencing from real things. Okay, so now I'm ready. I've got these new references. What can I do with that? I've got my photo references here, or my subject matter reference here, and now I'm going to make a folder of all my stylistic reference here, and then I'm going to lock it, mark it red, I'll mark it orange, why not? And then I'm going to lock my background. And now this layer, this is what I'm going to call a shape speed paint. So this is one way. It's a very William de Kooning way to start. And I have to kind of teach it to you while I demo it. Kind of like digital coloring, I have to show you a lot of the aspects while still also trying to do it. But you just have to kind of choose the approach that's right for you. So if you go to the project, and we can get to it through unit modules. We're finishing up unit 14 in the next 2 classes. So digital painting, this includes question of the day 4, which we'll discuss in a little bit after we've gotten our workflows set up. And we see lots of past examples. And remember, you can do an animal head to toe or a portrait from the shoulders up, and you can stylize it, but it should be based on at least one photo reference that has 3 dimensions and light direction. So this is the shaped speed painting approach. You just use brushes the entire time. You don't do any kind of line art or sketching or measuring. You just kind of build it out of nothing. And then I have, and this is another example of that shaped speed painting, I have my exhaustive exploration in digital painting right here. And I have a past final presentation of an artist named Max Reed, who does this kind of shape painting most of the time, right? And then sometimes works on top of a sketch. But what I like is the finish, which is not super finished, that this artist gets with digital paint. Because I think the tendency is to think digital painting is to make things photorealistic. And you can definitely go that way. It takes a long time, but it's the same kind of skills. But really, it's about kind of expressing what you like about the subject. So I think that's a good inspiration. It doesn't need to be super refined. So my exhaustive explanation, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because I want to get to the painting. But I use Wonder Woman a lot because of the primary colors. This is what digital painting is. It is not behind line art, right? If there's any line art at all, it is on top of it. So here we have the speed shape painting on the top for this kiwi. Notice how it just starts with brush strokes, and then the brush strokes go from really big brushes to smaller and smaller brushes as it gets more refined. And then here we have the sketched approach. Sketched approach is you just kind of draw it out like you would on paper or on canvas, and then you kind of fill it up, and then you refine it as you go. And you can look at your subject matter. This is a portrait I did as a demo of the author James Joyce. And this is a representational approach. You know, even if your colors are funky like mine are, this is trying to match the reality of that photo reference or those multiple photo references. James Joyce has a bad eye. I wanted to fix that eye, which was usually bandaged in his photos. And so I used other photos of him, you know, and was able to put it together. But then you can also go for finishes that are a little bit different, right? That are more stylistic and abstracted. And what I'm going to do is set up my layers in a way that one PSD file can give me something that's more fully done, which takes more time, or I can strip some of those layers away and get some of the more brushstrokey versions of it. So we want to learn how to pay attention to the details that matter in your reference, but you don't start with the details. You start by blocking out the base colors and then kind of chiseling them out as you go. And instead of selecting the color from that color selector all the time, which can get really difficult to measure them, it's really helpful to have reference images and color inspiration in your Photoshop file so you can just steal from it while using the brush. And to do that, you just hold down Option while you're using the brush to make it the eyedropper tool, and then you can just steal the colors directly. A great aspect of digital painting is that you can fix things as you go, which you can't in traditional painting. So as this student is working on this portrait of Jack Black, at a certain section, they kind of rotate everything and warp everything to better match. They kind of cut away, and then they add accessories like piercings or tattoos or glasses at the end, because you don't want to start with like the detail of something like that. And then once you get kind of comfortable with the basics of digital painting, there are artists that are doing really interesting things. So this is an artist that uses compositing underneath their digital paintings. So it does kind of mock-ups using textures from landscape photography mostly as brush strokes, builds kind of a shape language with that, and then digitally paints on top of it to finish it off. And then I used a lot of dragons just to show all the different ways that are out there that you can find for digital painting. So this is kind of the traditional way. You sketch, you get your sketch right, then you use the digital paint pixels to completely cover up your sketch and slowly render out the textures and the colors as you go.